Welcome to today's ILTA YouTube video entitled Elevating Expertise, Professional Development for Knowledge Management and Innovation Professionals in Law Firms. I'm your moderator, Jennifer Mendez. I'm the Senior Director of Knowledge Management Innovation at Fisher Phillips, and I am joined today by two fantastic speakers that I'm really excited about. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. So Christine, will you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, well, thanks for having me. I'm Christine Becker. I work at ILTA, and I have been in the legal industry my entire career, coming from law firms of all different sizes, and then moving into legal operations, and then now with ILTA, where I run our mentorship program.
Thank you so much. And Arturo, will you introduce yourself to the people?
Sure. I'm Arturo Ferreira. I've worked with Fisher Phillips on AI stuff for about 2.5 years now. I'm the co-founder of Upscaile and the AI Report, which tries to keep people abreast of the latest in news and education on generative AI and the latest technology.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think that's the perfect segue into my first question, Arturo, which is really what trends have you seen in the KM and innovation space over the last few years?
I think the biggest trend has just been the individual adoption, right? The technology is reported on, I mean, it's just you can't go anywhere without hearing about generative AI and DeepSeek and all the new things and all the fancy new toys. The biggest difference I've seen in the last 2 years is just the average person using it more and more often and the curiosity that leads to overall proliferation, right? You look at how long it took to reach 1 million users, and ChatGPT did it in a fraction of the time that even Facebook did it, right? So I think it's neat to watch the scope and scale of really the story of human history, right? The idea of like information traveling faster and more efficiently. It's happening right in front of our eyes within less than a generation. And that's probably the biggest and most exciting change.
Yeah, and when I hear you say that, I just can't help but think how critical change management is now for that KM professional. And we used to think of them as two totally separate careers, if anything. But now, just like what you're saying, that pace that we're seeing the change happening, I think in order to provide the knowledge or the training or the skills that we need to do our jobs right now, you will really need us to change from what we're currently doing. We probably have to change some habits. We probably have to do something differently now. And for a lot of us, we've been doing the same thing for years, and that's hard.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
hard.
I agree. And I think so for the last year and a half or so, I've been teaching SHRM, Society of Human Resource Managers. I've been teaching their AI course, right? And I think that's been the most common thread is the technology is really interesting, right? In the sense that generative AI is the first technology we've ever come up with that you don't need to engage with like it's technology. You just talk to it, right? And Connor Grennan said it best, the English majors will take over the world. But there's this really interesting hurdle where humans are uniquely bad at changing the way they've done something because it's worked long enough, right? We've created a kludge and we're like, yeah, why, right? And it's hard. It's a hard thing to change your habits, your mentality, and even just get around some of like your own blocks, right? So it is. I agree, Christine. Like from my frontline experience on my end, not being an attorney, I have absolutely discovered that that's the case. Is people just like, yeah, but why?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's especially true in law firms, and maybe I'm biased because I've spent my entire career in the legal industry, but being in the KM space, I can't tell you how often the answer is always, well, that's the way we've always done it. It's like, but I'm trying to introduce a new way to do it that's going to make your life easier. It's going to create some efficiencies. It's going to improve all of your processes. So that's a really good point. Christine, I just want to expand a little bit in terms of the trends. Have you seen anything from the ILTA's perspective regarding sessions and things that you're tailoring or targeting now just based on this shift in the legal technology market?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you look at our education and the content that we're producing on a daily basis. Yes, we're pumping out all the tech, I'll call it tech focused content where it's a specific, but we have requests and I don't want to say demands, but our members are wanting skill education around those skill growth, professional development, mindset changing, change management like they've never needed before. New careers like business analysts and project managers are careers that have never been in law firms before and are now popping up constantly. So all of this is creating a huge shift in our industry that just wasn't there 10, 15 years ago. It's really exciting, but it just means we all have to adjust and work together for it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about skill development. And we've already touched a little bit on Gen AI and legal tools or legal technology tools, and we'll talk a little bit more about those. But in terms of skill development, can we talk a little bit about the importance of soft skills in this ever evolving tech focused world? I mean, Arturo, you already alluded to it, right? Just joking that English majors will take over the world. And I love that quote, not just because I am an English major, but because there is this focus on being able to communicate effectively and have these tools beyond using the technology. So can we talk a little bit more about the soft skills that you think will be necessary to be successful as the tech evolves?
Yeah, no, I'm really happy that the English major is being validated now after all this time. It's like, you see, Mom, I told you it was
It's
going
not
to
a
work
waste.
out. No, I knew it. Yeah, so I think that we've kind of talked a little bit about the change management piece. I think, and this will be a question for both of you, being that you're in the industry, but like one of the things that I think is important is reframing the way that we engage with and not regurgitate, that's not a good word, but like use and put together knowledge, right? Like the way we adapt and overcome, because generative AI is not a push button, it's all done, right? And we don't want it to be that, because then what's left for us? But it is a really powerful tool in taking the bottom 60% of your cognitive tasks and allowing you to focus on the higher end critical thinking, right? And this, being in your chair at one point, Jennifer, I interviewed Dr. Sam Simon on a podcast. I bring this interview up all the time because, I ask all my guests, what do you say to people that are afraid of losing their jobs? And Dr. Sam Simon, author of The Singularity of Hope, which I like a lot because I'm a huge Ray Kurzweil fan, he said, the problem isn't that AI is going to take our jobs. AI is not taking our jobs. It was going to do the jobs it was always meant to do. The problem is we spent the last several decades teaching people to think and act like machines. And this is where we kind of hit the point of the soft skill from my perspective, where it isn't really the technology again, right? Because it's easy. It's straightforward. Nothing's easy. It's straightforward to engage with. The questions now become social, cultural, and philosophical. The questions become, where do we find our place? So knowledge management is an important piece in what we all do. The kind of paradox is generative AI is uniquely suited to be very good at managing knowledge, right? Data recall and data processing are two of its most powerful capabilities. It doesn't do great on open-ended variable questions like financial markets. Like there's a lot of people throwing a lot of money trying to figure that out, right? But in a closed data set with clear data, clean data that we can actually identify, it does pretty good. So when we have that and we compare that to human memory, the question is, what do we do with that? Right. And I think I'm always remiss if I go into, and I'm sorry, I've kind of gone on for a while, but I'm always remiss to feel that a lot of people focus on all the good things of AI, and I am very much a biased optimist, but what do we do in the initial squeeze when people are being forced to change how we think, how we act, and how we interact with this whole new speed that we really can't keep up with? So that's, I think, kind of batting it to y'all now. It's like, where do you see the knowledge management position? How do you see it forming? Because I get that question as an instructor all the time, and I think I only kind of 50% answer it.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying there. And I think if I could give it somewhat of a real world example to what you're saying, it would be and that change you're talking about would be, for example, in editing, say our documents or just editing our work in general. It could be just simple correspondence even. Because previously we would spend our time drafting that email or drafting those affidavits and documents. And then we spent most of our time there, and then we would review and edit. And now, right, you can speak to this more, but the AI can do our drafting for us. That's amazing. It's cutting that time down. But now I think Jennifer, where you're talking about the skills needed, I think we now need to have a more of that curiosity that we already mentioned, but we're switching our skills to more editing and reviewing as opposed to the drafting. So that's where we need to be questioning the content that it just produced. We need to be asking questions in our, like, mentally, like, oh, wait, is that correct? If we see a statistic, we have to be fact checking it. We have to constantly be double checking, like we've never had to do in our careers before. So I really think that's, like, quite frankly, our work product and our reputations are going to be affected by how well we can proofread now and edit and make that AI content accurate, but it really coming from ourselves and making that content our own. So again, those are soft skills that, yes, we've used, or skills that we've used, but we're really going to have to hone in on them now.
Mm.
Well, I
Yeah.
think one of the things that we're doing a lot of is just reminding people, right, especially in our position, Arturo, you know this, working with Fisher Phillips, right? We are all in on Gen AI and this movement, and we want to encourage our folks to use the technology and leverage it in meaningful ways. But the thing that we always fall back on is trust but verify, right? We want you to trust the tools. We've vetted them. We are working with these vendors. They are closed source. We're not, feeding it everything under the sun. We understand the content behind it, the corpus of the content. But you have to be able to verify. And even something as simple as feeding it a document and saying, I need it to be, I need this word count or this character limit, whatever it is, right? Let's say you need to submit it to the court and this is how many pages it needs to be. And you tell it, just take this, summarize it, reduce it to this number of pages. Well, you have to make sure it's not editing any of your quotes, right? Don't change any quotes, especially anything that we're attributing to a case, right? Don't change that. That if something lives in quotations, leave it alone. There are things that you have to be able to tell the system what to do. You have to understand what those limitations are. And I think this is where prompting becomes a crucial skill, because I'm not telling everyone to become a prompt engineer, because when you actually look at the true definition of it, we're not telling people to become prompt engineers, but to really understand being able to phrase a question. And the way that I talk to my attorneys about it is, you do this all the time in depositions, right? You phrase a question and then you may rephrase it, and it's the exact same question, but you've changed how you've asked it to see if the person is going to change their response. It's the same thing with generative AI. You have to keep prompting and asking it the question until you get to the place where you need it to be, in order for it to be really effective. So I think that's one of the things that is important to us is having our attorneys understand that they can trust the system, but they need to verify the output, that they need to rephrase their questions. And then it goes back to change management, right? It's just, I know you've always done it this way, but if you try this new system, here's how, and this is where I always sort of try to come back to encourage folks. I find that it's very encouraging to attorneys this is how it's going to affect the bottom line, right? Especially for your flat fee or your alternate fee arrangements. It's going to save you X amount of time, which is going to make you this much more profitable. And I think that there are instances where we're sort of overselling how much time AI is going to save, or Gen AI specifically is going to save us, because we go back to Christine's point about proofreading and verification and making sure that the output is good. So, you are going to still spend some time, even if the output, you were able to generate it in 6 minutes, you still may need to spend 30 to 45 minutes reviewing it. It's not that, something that took you an hour now takes you 45 minutes. So it's not that it's going to take just the 6 minutes for the output. You want to verify. There are benefits to it, but I think those are some of the things that we contend with internally to say, this is great, but.
Right. And the long-term piece there is adding that soft skill is the education to that, right? Is to teach people prompt engineering, for instance, right? Or just even the ability to engage and think critically. Because right now I think we're in this interesting place where the stuff we're talking about makes sense to you and all of us and to myself, because we have context, right? Like this white hair didn't show up overnight, right? Like I'm older, I have experience, I've been in my career, and you get to a senior associate or partner level in a law firm. That's because you were a junior one day. So when you're engaging with generative AI, you have context for what you are asking. You have a vision of what the final product looks like. What happens when the senior associates, or at least the people that should be, never got the context because they just jumped in right into the generative AI bit. And this is where there's a squeeze in the middle that I'm seeing right now. So my wife has been in college planning her entire career, college financial planning. And there are a lot of interesting things going on in college in general, right? Obviously, people are less excited to go. It's more expensive. Education is changing. Generative AI is changing it. And there's a demographic cliff. Because 18 years ago, next year, what happened? The economy tanked and people stopped having kids. So now colleges are going to start to fight over a lot less people starting next year for quite some time. Generative AI is on the scene. Kids today are not using it in a way that is necessarily indicative of the critical thinking necessary to what Christine's saying of the editing portion. They're just using it for finished product. So we're getting this homogenous, low level production. So what do we do? How do we teach people effectively to have juniors become seniors in the same amount of time when we lack the traditional system, the gauntlet that makes them the real life experience, the pain teachers that make them effective senior leadership, right? And that starts with either take charge of your own education or as a middle or upper level manager, really engender those habits in your people to be like, look, you're here, that's great. Here's how we're doing things, right?
Oh,
But that the blanket ban's no good. Sorry, Christine,
yeah.
please.
Yeah, no, you're hitting the nail on the head. And I think um from the pandemic, we saw a shift where people were starting to get hired uh, based just on soft skills. And people, for the first time in my career, I saw organizations being willing to train the hard skills internally. You didn't have to have come in with the certificate or the degree. And I had never seen that before. And it hasn't stopped. It's going to keep, I think, it just keep increasing. And so that means your ability to be calm under pressure, your
Mm.
ability to work independently, your ability to ask good questions and think critically, like you were saying, adjusting to change well. Now, these are skills that are so important. And those are the skills that could, quite frankly, get you the job or not get you the job. And they'll teach you the hard skills internally, or they'll teach you the software. They'll teach you, like you were saying, Jennifer, your organization has built their own internal AI product. Okay, great. Then we'll teach you all of that. And we'll have rules and procedures and regulations around it and retention and all that good stuff. But we want the right mindset coming in.
That's actually, I think the perfect segue into, I don't want to freak anybody out in the audience to say, oh, I just need soft skills and all of these hard skills these tools that I've mastered, are not going to be beneficial. I think there's still, obviously room for that. So I'm going to turn it over back to Arturo. Are there any specific tools that you think folks should be focusing on mastering, and it may not be a tool specifically, but just the general underlying functionality that a tool may offer, right?
Yeah, so two things. One, touching on the point of like kind of having confidence in the hard skills, I'll give you an analogy. 20 years ago, if you wanted to build a website, you hired someone that knew how to code HTML or you learned it yourself, right? And then a few years later, we ended up with Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, and all these things. But that didn't put web designers out of business. In fact, it made a lot of them more effective, more profitable. Because again, the lower order stuff became a lot more efficient for them to produce. This is no different. If we use image generators, you and I can produce similar quality photos. But my background is media, so I can produce more specific photography if I'm asking for lens types, a specific photography style, certain kind of lighting, because I understand the context that I'm looking at. So the importance of hard skills has not really diminished yet. It's just the need to memorize it. So the two skills I would say, one is just the internal skill of leaning into the cheat. It feels like cheating, and that's fine because all new technology feels that way. If you feel like this is cheating, then stop using spell check or get used to calling your grandparents and be like, hey, which church do I turn at to go down right? Like get rid of Google Maps. It's every cycle is a new thing. If you want a specific tool, honestly, just start using your generative AI. I would say ChatGPT because that's the one I use, but most people have Copilot at work. Use it. Get accustomed to it. I do think ChatGPT is worth it. I'm not being paid to say this. I do think it's worth the $20 a month because it does allow a lot more of customization. You can customize the system prompts. You can be a little more specific in the technology and the way that you kind of like customize how it interacts with you. You can give it a custom nickname that it'll call you when you log into it. Copilot doesn't really allow for that, and they still both work on the same model, right? But just use it. Like a simple way is not even just the tool. Take your phone and wherever you have Google Chrome or Safari, take the icon and move it to a different part. And where that icon used to be, put ChatGPT or put your large language model in its place and just start using it to search things. Be curious with it and ask for it, iterate, be like, all right. And that's the best way. If you're not going to take the training, if you're not going to hire me to come in and teach your organization, just start using it, engaging with it so you understand where it's good, where it needs help, and where you should absolutely not be using it.
Yeah, we like to tell our folks, if you need a place to start, tell the system to tell you how to use the system, right? Ask ChatGPT how to use ChatGPT,
Yeah.
because it will help you. It will guide you through the process. Give it context. Tell it you're a junior associate at a labor and employment firm and you're working on X, Y, and Z, and how would you be able to help? And it will tell you how it can help. So there's definitely that. Christine, anything that you want to add, or any educational opportunities that you've seen ILTA sort of focusing on around specific hard skills?
Well, an option that I would give that has somewhat nothing to do with AI, which is a little bit different, is I've seen a lot. I've talked to a few people lately where they have no learning management system at all in their organization. And I would just heavily, heavily encourage any organization, well, no matter what your size is, to have a learning management system, because we want to work smarter, not harder, and we want to use our time and energy in all the ways we just talked about this morning. So I think having the structure of an LMS really allows somebody to do that, because you can get your content, your education, your training, whatever it is for your organization in there, and then you can make tweaks to that training, or you can add additional content as new software comes in, and as you learn new products, you can track your learning and you can spend your time and energy then focusing on learning the new products and the tech that's out there while you already have your trainings set to go, and your people in your organization can be utilizing that. And really now your focus is on learning new technology, upgrading skills, and you've used your time super efficiently. So if you're a small organization and you think you've never thought about a learning management system because you thought the price point wasn't going to be reasonable for your organization, I can tell you there are ones out there that cater to the smaller firms, the smaller organizations. It is highly recommended. Nobody should be doing the type of training and knowledge sharing manually anymore. We need to be using tech for that, because again, we need to focus and change our energy and our shifts, and we need to spend our time other ways, and we need to just use that to our advantage.
I second that notion. An LMS is incredibly important, beyond some of the things that you mentioned, Christine, right? You can obviously create different learning paths. You can make things mandatory. As you said, you can track people's progress. You can, generate data analytics around what offices or what groups of people really
That's
need
huge.
moving around different
Yeah.
things. So I definitely encourage that. And I think that's actually a great way to get into just I think our last topic that we have a few minutes for, which is around just professional development in general, and maybe even networking, right? In this ever evolving space. I know I sign up for a ton of different things. We work with Arturo on different things as well to just keep abreast of the latest happenings. Can you sort of tell our viewers about different opportunities in terms of either networking or professional development opportunities that are available to them to help keep them abreast of the latest happenings in our space?
Yeah, for sure.
Arturo,
All
you want
these soft skills. Oh, sorry, Arturo. I talked.
No, please, Christine, go.
All these soft skills that we're talking about today, you can learn them and grow in that area through mentoring and networking. And really, they can make a huge, significant change to your career. That old adage, It's not what you know, it's who you know. That still applies in our industry. And it's such an easy way to take advantage by joining a type of mentoring program. I mean, obviously I'm biased for the ILTA's mentoring program, but really there's so many out there. There's so many different types of mentoring. And where you can get into a space where you have a mentor that you can ask questions and you can get meaningful feedback in that safe environment, man, that can make all the difference to your advancement. So I really, really do think that mentorship has a very important role in everyone's career, and it can look different for everybody. It isn't just cookie cutter. But I also just can't emphasize enough this networking, any type of social networking event that you could go to, whether that's a conference, whether that's like a lunch and learn, whether that's just a cocktail hour where you just meet a new software provider. Even if you attend for 10 minutes and you just meet one new person, like you're nervous and it feels overwhelming to you, just try and meet one new person and that will be amazing. And or you could go approach these networking things, like just come up with a goal. Like maybe your goal is, I just want to introduce myself to one new person or 3 new people. And slowly your confidence will build and your skills will build in this regard. And you're going to be really surprised to see your network grow. And these people are going to be part of your professional growth in ways that you don't know today. It could be 6 months from now, it could be 2 years from now, but you're building your network, and that's amazing. That's huge. And that's such the best part of being in an industry like legal, and where it can be, it's a smaller industry, but the networking possibilities are so great.
Yeah, I mean that's very good advice. There's nothing else I can add to that from that perspective. I would say from the kind of starting small or from the smaller side, if, maybe you're overwhelmed, like maybe you've got 3 kids, 7 and under, like I do, and cocktail hours are a thing of the past for the next decade or so. I would say the 2 things that you could address is, first of all, don't do nothing, right? Do something to engage. So on the one hand, there's probably 1 or maybe 2 other people in your organization that you have a relationship with that are interested in this stuff. Agree to meet once a month and see what you've done. Bounce ideas. Hey, how did you use AI for this? And it doesn't even have to be work related. It's like, hey, I want to like cook something, because AI excels at giving you recipes with timing to get it to the table hot. Right? Like there's all these ways that you can engage with. Or like if you don't have anyone at your office, once in a while we get somebody where it's like, yeah, nobody's interested in this stuff. What can you do at home, right? I use ChatGPT to make a choose your own adventure for my kids, and it makes a picture and they all get to do it. And we do it for bedtime. So it's really the exciting thing of technology. And it goes back to just do the thing. Find the social group you're most comfortable with, whether it's your kids, your friend across the desk from you, or even a parent or a family member, and just do something. Have that social accountability. When I teach this stuff, there's really not a ton of ways. Like I don't pretend like I have some secret sauce on teaching you how to do this, right? Prompt engineering is pretty straightforward. It feels steep, but it's a very short learning curve. I use a gym analogy, right? You don't go to the gym to learn how to run. You go to the gym for me to tell you when and for how long. So this is no different. Find people that will make you comfortable, that will make you accountable, and that are going to keep you to it so that you have an opportunity to practice the skills and feel good when you do something cool.
Oh, I love it.
Well, I think that is a perfect way to end the session. I've heard some great advice today, right? Replace Google Chrome or your other search engine on your phone with ChatGPT. If you have it, spend the $20 a month for the subscription. It genuinely makes a difference. Ask AI how to use AI, and obviously don't put. I have to say this because we are ILTA legal technology law firms, legal spaces. Don't put any PII in there. Don't, obviously adhere to your firms or your organization's generative AI policy. Make sure you're following the rules, but definitely, we're encouraging you all to use it. Find a good mentor or a social group that you're comfortable with so that you can practice these skills and get better at it. Definitely leverage your ILTA membership. And one thing that we didn't mention are just the ILTA discussion posts, right? Post your questions on there. This organization, this group of people, everyone is just so incredibly helpful. And because we're in a unique space, the likelihood is that we've been there, we've done that, we can provide guidance from organizations of any size. So whether you're a small firm or a large firm, or anywhere in between, you should definitely leverage ILTA and any other resources that you have at your disposal to help you out. I think that's, I hope I've done a good recap of our session. In closing, obviously, thank you, Christine and Arturo, for sharing your time and your insights with us today. It's really been a fantastic discussion. And be sure to stay tuned for more KM and marketing content coming your way. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Thanks.